So therefore, do you agree that, this would be much more effective in a way, Aman Lekhi, the majority judgment, if the creamy layer was removed? You see, one of the objections that led eventually to forward caste protesting and now political parties reaching out, particularly the Modi government and the BJP, is they wanted to reach out to forward castes as well. If you remember, this happened post the Madhya Pradesh elections of 2018 when the BJP took a hit. And the BJP then decided we need to reach out to forward caste. What do? We give them 10% reservation. But in the process, what happens to the so-called creamy layer? There are creamy layers today within the SC, ST, OBC. It is watching them that a section of the forward caste seem to believe that we are losing out while the creamy layer continues to get benefits. Now you've got other groups, Marathas, Jats, all of whom are dominant agrarian castes who also want reservation. So is the real, should the court also make greater effort to ensure that any system keeps the creamy layer out?
No, the creamy layer is to be out in any case. That's the law. In fact, that's the reason why we weed out those who are disentitled to reservation among the socially, educationally backward classes from those who are entitled. And that principle is in place. If Ram Vilas Paswan's son gets a benefit, that's a system of a system not working. Because as far as the system is concerned, the system will exclude it. That said, what I want to bring is that these are substantive issues which should not be made subject to political gimmickry. What actually happens is that economic policy and eventual development will not actually be identified the particular individual. And in a personalized system of democracy which we have, we need to have measures by which an individual or a group of individuals, the party can take benefit. Now, because reservation is concerned, it is something which is tangible and straightforward and immediately know that the party or individual has actually given that benefit. So there is a public acclaim because the benefit is being given, and without there being much change on the ground, by reason of the fact that this facility is made available, there is general happiness all around. This is a classical system in the social menu of what is rent seeking, in which you get more benefit out than what actually is invested into the system. Because while the system remains in the stagnant state it is, without there being a substantial improvement, there is a general illusion of some work in the sense of there being some positive movement towards more participation.
So you're saying it's essentially...
The result is in fact...
It's essentially short-circuiting the system. You are short-circuiting the system by offering these reservations almost as sops is what you seem to suggest, rather than actually effecting substantive change. I come back to my concern, Shadan, Farasat, as a result, that when we look at some of the dominant agrarian castes who are also pushing for reservations, Marathas pushed for it, the Supreme Court did not accept it, but there will be a renewed push for that as well. So it's not just today, it's not just forward caste, 10% economically backward forward caste, but dominant communities, Patidars, Jats, Marathas are all pushing for quotas.
No, that is correct. So I think a whole part of the forward caste grievance is, look at the backward caste, they have reservations, we don't.
Yes.
Now the equality, and that's the grievance which we often hear, and in drawing room conversations. But that doesn't work. You see, the constitutional architecture is not to give reservation for the sake of giving reservation. The reservation has to be justified on a certain ground. Now, if the upper caste have historically been the better off in the society, the forward caste, they don't need it. Now, in this case, an exception was made for the economically poor within the forward caste. I can still at some level understand, okay, economically poor, although they have not faced discrimination, but because of poverty, they face challenges, therefore reservation. But then where is the logic to exclude the backward caste who are not just poor, who may be as poor or in fact as data shows poorer, but in fact facing discrimination also, especially Dalits. And just one aspect on creamy layer. You see, creamy layer, there is no concept of creamy layer for SC, STs. There is a concept of creamy layer for OBCs. So OBCs creamy layer are excluded, SC, ST, everybody is included. That is why Paswan's son, who is also Dalit, is included and his economic criteria is not relevant. And that's why I made the representational point, because these, especially Dalits, have historically been so underrepresented. This is a question of not just his personal situation, which may, as you rightly point out, be very good, but in fact is a representational capacity which is representing, and that's why there is no care for Dalits.